This is the ERP Advisor.
Today's episode: what businesses get wrong during their ERP implementation. Hi everyone, thank you for joining us for today's webinar, What Businesses Get Wrong During Their ERP Implementation. Sean Windle is our speaker for today. Sean is the founder and managing principal of ERP Advisors Group based in Denver, Colorado. Sean has over 25 years of experience in the enterprise software industry, helping hundreds of clients across many industries with selecting and implementing a wide variety of enterprise solutions. His podcast, The ERP Advisor, has dozens of episodes with thousands of downloads and is featured on prominent podcast platforms such as Apple and Spotify. On today's call, Sean will uncover what businesses get wrong during their ERP implementations to guide project sponsors back to the path of ERP success. Welcome, Sean.
Hello.
Hi.
I knew we would end up talking about this at some point, so
Right.
Here we go.
Yes, it should be a good topic.
Yeah.
And we're talking about a lot of things prior to this. I think lots of stuff is gonna come up, so we'll kind of see where this goes.
Exactly.
Sometimes I'm not sure where these calls are gonna go, and we just end up.
There you go.
For anybody watching, we have a plan. We don't always follow the
I
plan.
know, it's true. I need to blow Rebecca's mind with ERP every
Yeah.
once in a while, so
Yes.
it's good.
I think it resonates with people too, right? And
Yeah.
talking to people, we've been going to conferences, interacting a lot more with vendors. I think us being very genuine and open and transparent about these things is what people like about the podcast.
That's
so
good. Yep.
always love that we can do this.
Yep. Yeah. Thanks again for all your support, and Will and everybody else that are, it takes a lot to produce all this, so hopefully it's helpful. Let's do it.
Awesome. All right, so we're going to jump right in, and I hope everybody's excited for today's call. So Sean, why is it so important to get your ERP implementation right?
Basically, because you don't want your employees to quit when you implement. The end. We could end the call right there.
Yeah.
I think it's obvious for sure, but for real, and it like we were just chatting about, we had a circumstance happen recently that affected 2,000 people with their new system, and it's like, whoa, that wasn't expected, but it kind of was. Could we have done more? Should the vendor have done more? Should the client have done more? The answer is yes across the board. But if you're implementing a financial system, the accounting team is going to be impacted, right? And frankly, the accountants, finance people are used to working with systems. They sort of understand the risks. They kind of sometimes are already getting treated in a way where they're like already kind of the last people to find out about stuff. Because if you think about it, we've got debits and credits that are based on these business transactions that are happening. And so, I'm a CPA, and sometimes it's like, yeah, sorry guys, you just gotta make it go right and work through it. Okay, fine. And that group usually can. That's the truth. Now, if you go to the extreme of maybe a field team, a sales team, people are out with customers, people are out, servicing, and they're like in the guts of stuff, consultants, like day in and day out. And so you change their systems, and their inability then or they have an inability or the ability to interact with customers and service customers is impacted.
Right.
They're like, I'll watch my language, but I can't do blah. I can't bill. I can't track my time. I can't track the material. I lost the service request or whatever. And they're like, I can't do my job.
Right.
And that's not good, right? Or on the HR payroll side, human capital management, and people are entering their time or they're doing things related to their pay, if you jack that up. And people are like, wait a minute, am I going to get paid right? Then I'm going to leave, right? So, this getting ERP right, getting these enterprise systems right it's really, really vital. And so I'm glad we're talking about this today, because it seems so obvious, but it is a really fundamental question that every person listening to this call who's thinking about, new systems, they really do need to ask themselves that question. What happens if this goes wrong?
Right.
And that'll open up a solution to, okay, well, what does that mean by wrong? Well, people can't use the new system, reports aren't being generated, and people aren't able to make decisions from it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And now you're starting to sort of unlock the keys here to like literally, the key is do the right change management stuff. Mm-hmm. Now, when we talk about change management, we're not talking about the high level froofy stuff, whatever that analogy was that I made. Cheetos. Cheetos. That's what we call
won't
them
go into
where
that
I'm from.
again.
Cheetos. They're not Cheetos, but they're Cheetos. Anyway,
Cheetos.
but like substantial nutritional change management of like, okay, let me think of some wild example. Well, I mean, it's obvious, but we do a lot of work with public safety. And if those guys and gals can't use the system and they can't record exactly what the incident was that occurred, there's not just regulatory implications, but there's best practices that are learned that could have been learned. And even in some cases, it's not like the lives aren't going to get saved because they screwed up the system, but data could be entered incorrectly that then somebody uses a report later on with the wrong information, and they could administer a drug incorrectly. When we should have gotten that information up front, specifically on patient care reporting, we have to ask about allergies and stuff. So that's why everybody you meet when you're in a medical situation says, do you have any allergies? Do you have any allergies? Do you have any allergies? I think you walk into an office and they're like, hey, do you have any allergies?
Right.
Oh, no. Okay, good. What's your name? So long story short, really look at what could happen. That's one of the best nuggets I've ever given.
Yeah.
I really do think so.
Yeah, and I think that's really helpful. No one goes into a project like that and is like, you know what, I can't wait to fail this project.
Exactly.
I can't wait to tank everything and just see how it goes.
Right.
People go into it very optimistic, especially those who have never confronted an ERP project before. And
Perfect.
they're like, everything's going to go right. The
That's
implementation partner, they're telling me everything's going to go right.
That's right.
They're going to train. They're going to do this. And that's not really the case. And especially if they don't know.
Yeah.
They work with so many clients. You do what you do, and at the end of the day, you know your people and you know your organization better than anybody else ever could.
What do you think, Rebecca? Why would a person who is, they're entrusted by the company, by the owners, by the executive team, they're an executive themselves, why would that person miss that? Like, what is, because they're smart, it's not intelligence. Why are they more eager or more naive, if I dare say? What is that? What have you seen?
I think it could be a number of things, right?
Yeah.
I don't go to the doctor and they tell me I have a broken arm and I say, well, are you sure?
Right.
So if I'm talking to the vendor and I'm talking to an implementation partner and they're like, this is what's going to happen, I'm not going to be like, well, I've never done this before, but are you wrong?
Yeah.
Like, you might be wrong.
Right.
And so we want to trust the experts that are around us, right? And some people, I think, are also on the other side of that, are so eager to drive change in their organizations that they forget that there are other factors that, I'm very technical. I can go in there and I can implement this solution, but how is that going to impact my team? Are they going to be able to use the solution? Are those people in the field going to be able to use it the same way that I expect myself to be able to use it? And so it's not that they're not, and it's not even a selfishness, which is kind of what it sounds like I'm saying, and that's not
ego.
it either.
Right.
Like,
it's not driven from
anything
ego.
like that. It's just more we want to trust those around us. And we want to believe that we're doing the right thing, which most of the time you are.
Yep.
But you don't realize really how vast the market is or what solutions are out there until you get into it.
Or how deep the implementation goes and the implications to the organization. I think that's a phenomenal point, that this isn't like someone's like, yeah, I know everything. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to prove everybody that I can do this. You don't want to have that kind of person run your project.
No.
I don't think, we have people like that, usually in sales, thankfully. And, that's great, right? We love that because they've got to drive and make things happen and everything else. But you have to have like this humble viewpoint also of like, okay, what could happen if it goes wrong? What are the things that we can do to handle this? But I think it's just overwhelm. I think most people feel so overwhelmed with a project that they almost like don't even allow themselves to feel the overwhelm, or they would just be like, what am I doing?
Right.
Like, I got to stop because there's so much risk in this. There's there's different analogies. I don't want to say them on this particular moment, but a really good, analogy is if like you make a mistake, right? And then somebody yells at you and then, or whatever, and then you go back to the same situation and like, okay, I don't want to do this. Right. And so you back out from it. Like, you don't confront it. I think that's the word I would use is you got to confront the implications. I mean, we have 3 clients right now that are all great companies that we decided to help through rescue projects. And when we've gone in and really understood what's going on, there were areas of the project that they weren't confronting, mostly because they didn't know they had to confront them. They didn't even
Right.
know that there were like things that they needed to do. And just like you said, all right, vendor, are you really going to take care of everything, right? Nobody knows to ask that question.
Right.
The vendor says, here's my statement of work. Here's what I'm going to do for you. You want it or not, right? Which
Right.
is fine. So I do think it's not because of ego, and these people are not stupid or unintelligent
No.
that are driving a project. I think it's education. They just don't know what they don't know. But I think that's the biggest thing is you don't know that you don't know.
Right.
And you expect the vendors to know and to tell you, hey, here's what we're going to do. But I mean, I don't know what it's like for people going into the hospital or they're in situations now. It's almost like you have to have an advocate with you
Right.
that's sort of there looking out for you while you're there in the bed or whatever. I think it's, kind of similar in ERP, but I mean, that's a pitch for us. But I mean, even beyond us, you just need to realize that this is what I would say. In 10 minutes, it took me this long to say this. I'm sorry. Nobody has ever implemented whatever app you have at whatever your company is and whatever state your company is right now. That
Right.
has never been done before. That can be mind-blowing to some people when they really realize that, like, whoa, does that mean that anybody knows what they're doing? Well, in reality, nobody really knows.
Right.
I've never actually said that before either. We all have a really good idea, and we're all experts in these different areas, but we don't know what the challenges are. And I mean, of course, where that shows up the most is in data, right? Where, it's a whole nother topic. But just remember that nobody has ever implemented, pick an app, right? Aptian. For your food business, $250 million food distributor in the state of your business as it is right now with the people that you have right now, right? And the implementation partner when the skill set and the capability that they have right now. So it's sort of like this confluence and like this present time moment of these factors that you have to sort of step back from and say, okay, this is what the situation is. Now I see what I have. Now we can at least start to plow through it, one step at a time. I don't know if anybody's going to ever buy ERP after hearing this.
Oh, I know. I think at the heart of it, it's a team effort, right?
Yeah.
You can't do it alone. And we've seen
That's
these
right.
smaller projects where people try to do it alone, but then something gets left out or something gets forgotten or an element of the system is never built out with the implementation partner because no one was thinking about that subdivision that works in the basement and barely interacts with anybody. Those kind of
Exactly.
things in your business.
Well, and don't forget too, I'm sorry to interrupt,
No, you're
but
fine.
if anybody has any problems with this, just call my partner, Erica.
Yeah, she'll handle it.
She'll handle it.
I think this segue though, or this really segues us into the next question, which is why is it so easy to get things wrong during an ERP implementation?
Yeah, I mean, it is easy. It's easier to get things wrong than to get them right because you have all these factors that have to like, bing, they all have to line up perfectly. You're like, oh my gosh, that's perfect. But if one of those factors is off, then it's not going to go perfect. Well, there's more non-perfect factor points than there are. I could go on and on and on. But I think ultimately what it comes down to is it really is you don't know that you don't know.
Right.
Once you know you don't know and you start doing the research and I mean oftentimes I think some of our best leads are from people that have talked to software vendors and the software vendor's like, okay, here's what we're going to do for you, and the person goes, wait a minute, how can you do this without even really knowing who I am? Right. There's all kinds of dating analogies and things I can use. We'll stay away from those. That was 2000, the late 2000, or before 2020, we did a lot of those, but we don't do those anymore. But, any service provider, anything that you're out looking for help with, you go to the doctor and they say, I got this problem. Well, some doctors like, here's the pill. Wait, I didn't even tell you what the problem was. We got to watch out for those guys, right? Mm-hmm. You want them to really understand what's going on and then prescribe whatever the solution is. Right. So it's, again, you said it perfectly that I think the vast majority of people are very trusting, especially of professionals. And they're like, okay, these guys and gals, I'm talking to a gal from, pick a company, Uninet, and they're telling me da-da-da-da-da. These people know what they're doing, so I'm going to take their word for it. Or again, it could be Deltek, it could be a BSD, it could be anybody, any vendor. The perception is the people you're talking to that they know. But again, you people listening to this in our, I don't know if this is like our 654,000th podcast. I'm just kidding. Maybe next time we'll change seats to make it a little more interesting.
Yeah, we'll mix it up.
Next time I'm going to wear the blue outfit too. So that would be cool.
You can borrow this.
Okay. Well, all
It'll
right.
be the heels and everything.
There you
That'll
go.
be what you'll do.
But the key thing to just sort of really look at this is, they might not know.
Right.
They just might not. But they're doing the best they can. I'll say this. This is okay. Rebecca's always like, oh my God, what's he going to say?
I know, I'm like waiting for Erica to appear out of nowhere and be like, Sean.
Stop it. It's okay, hon. A software vendor told me one time a joke. She said, what's the difference between a used car salesman and a software salesperson? Have I said this before? Do you guys know this?
You've told me, but I don't know if you said it on the call.
I'm just going to say it online. The difference is the used car salesperson knows they're selling a lemon, right? Meaning the software salesperson doesn't even know. They don't know that their app, again, pick one, whatever, Epicor is not going to work for blah. They might not know that. Now the good ones do, of course. And anyway, I don't want to harp on the same things I already am, but it's a very near and dear conversation to me in my heart, and helping so many companies over the years to get to that successful go live despite all these challenges. It's possible. But I mean, that's the biggest reason why the failures occur, is because people don't know that they don't know. Once they know they don't know, they can go to our site. You guys put up a ton of great things. Right. You and Will and Erica put up amazing content that says, hey, think about this with integrations. Think about this with your nav instance or whatever, right? And people start to learn more, right? I think even our competitors that do a lot of these kinds of podcasts and stuff, I think we all, well, the good ones, we try to get more education out there so that everybody knows a little more, and they know the areas that they know, and they know the areas that they don't know. It can get help for sure, but that's when you become more cause over these situations. Like, I have no clue what I'm doing with, pick a topic, testing. I have no idea. Well, but I paid for the vendor, so they're going to do the testing. Just think about that for a minute. Put yourself in the vendor's shoes. So I keep looking at Will's awesome boots. I'm like, I want to be in those boots instead of these pansy shoes. Anyway, I'll put my foot down. No. But if I was in Will's hiking boots, right? So I was in the vendor's boots. If you're in that, from that view, they're like, I don't know what to test. I just built what you told me to do. Mm-hmm. You got to test. Well, what do you mean I got to test? I paid you to build this. Exactly.
You paid me to build it.
Build it, not test it. Oh, so I'm going to have to test this. Well, who's going to test it? Oh, it'd probably be better if I had like some of the really key people that knew their area and could check the app now before we go live to make sure it works.
Right. Great.
Let's do that. Now, are those people busy? Yes. I don't even know who they are in your organization, but I know they're busy. Okay, well, then I should probably give them a little heads up on that. So maybe we plan it out a month in advance. And what do I tell them to test? They've never done this before. Oh, I got to train them on how to even use the app in order for them to test. And it's like so overwhelming that you're like, oh my God, I can't even do this. I got to go. But dang it, we outgrew QuickBooks. Or dang it, our legacy system's about to die or it's going to be sunsetted. So I just got to go into this. You have to balance you got to do it with like, what's the right way to do things?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and that's for sure. It's not like I would go get Carly and be like, hey, can you test our marketing software?
Right.
I want to make sure it works right. She would
Right.
look at me like I was crazy.
That's
like,
right.
why am I testing the software that you use every day? And none of the vendors, we do a lot of vendor education as well, right? We collaborate with them. They come in and tell us about the product. We send a vendor email every week that they get some advice from us. They're not going into it with any ill intentions. They're not thinking, they think they communicated it right.
That's
and that's
right.
a big misconception too, that the vendor's like, well, I told them what I'm going to do. Well, the client didn't know what to ask. So the client didn't realize that that's not something you're going to do.
That's right.
And so I think it also comes down to communication, right? It's not just that we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
But you have to be willing to ask questions, and you have to be willing to seek out help from someone like us, where we print out questions to ask an ERP vendor, those kind of things, because we deal with this every day.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good point.
Right. So next question. We've talked a lot about this, that it's very easy to get wrong. What are some of the specific things that businesses get wrong during their implementation?
I could take a really deep breath and just start reeling off a bunch of stuff. But I'll just say a couple. Can you guess what the first thing is I'm going to say?
That people get wrong?
Yeah.
I don't know what the first thing you're going to say is, because I'm just thinking about all the other things.
Yeah.
Data.
Yes. But
I've been around enough that I thought that's
right.
the
That's
path
like
you
my
were
mantra.
going. But
well, we've always kidded around about making T-shirts for different things.
right.
And actually, we had a client make T-shirts. You might not have heard this. Well, this is funny. And the T-shirts had an eye and a heart, JP. Literally, 2 of them were wearing it on a conference. It was the beautifulest thing I've ever seen.
Oh, it's incredible.
JP is one of our data migration specialists. And I think he saved their bacon.
Yeah.
And they knew it, so they made T-shirts, which was super cool. They're a clothing company too, so it makes it even better. All kinds of stuff. Actually, belts. I got one of their belts on right now.
We should ask if
Also.
we can post that so that everyone can see
exactly.
how nice the photos are.
So I would say, there's so many misconceptions. I love that word in this around ERP, and one of the deepest, darkest is data. That nobody thinks about it. Going into projects, we've talked a ton about this over the years. But, you get a new house and, wow, I moved into this new house. This new house is wonderful. And you're like, there's no place to sit. I'm going to eat. There's no silverware. There's nothing there's not even a refrigerator, right? You're like, oh, I got to move all my stuff into it. Yes. That stuff in ERP is your data.
Yep.
And you're just kind of cluttery in the old house. I mean, you just kind of shoved a bunch of data stuff in the corner. And now you're going to go to the new house and you want to shove all that stuff in the corner. Okay, fine. But why not get it right? Get it cleaned up. So there's just a ton of work to get data in. And I get bored talking about data. I go into like apathy. I want to take a nap. I'll have my cappuccino after this. That'll help.
My eyes glaze over too.
Exactly.
I'm interested in this stuff and I'm still like, oh my goodness.
I know. And so that's the other danger, right? Is that all the technical guys, they'll just take care of that. No, the technical guys will take care of it if you tell them what to do. So you still have to sort of to guide them on that. So there's enough about data. I think we have like a gazillion episodes on that.
Yeah.
And white papers and stuff like that too. But of recent, the thing that I am seeing the most that companies get wrong, I've talked about the impact to your internal people a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good one too. You don't realize how much is required. Why don't I dive into this one? So again, we go to, the store and you buy whatever you buy. You take it home and you do whatever you do with it and you're done with it. You stick it on the shelf or whatever, or it's a couch or it's a car, or it's a house, it's a plane trip, whatever. You do whatever you do and then you're done, right? ERP is just not that way. It requires you and your team to have a lot of creation and involvement. So we put together a model, Zach on our team, who's awesome. He put together a model for a client of here's all the client side roles or hats, I think we called them, that you're going to have to wear, your team's going to have to wear. And there were like 20. Mm-hmm. So wait a minute, there's 20 different hats that have to be worn during this year-long implementation? Yeah, and we sort of just kind of theoretically said, okay, at the initiate, design, develop, test, blah, blah, here's the different phases, and here's the hours that we think the PM, the lead analyst, the subject matter expert for this area, the end users, this are sponsors, blah, 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 all these people. I mean, it's really about it. This is what all the time's going to be. It's like 7,000 hours. So what's that? 2.5 people full time, right? And they don't really have the people. Actually, it's 3.5. They don't have 3.5 people to focus on this project full time. Now, some companies do have bigger IT groups. They can do that. But I'll tell you this, those people that have the availability aren't the ones that have to do the work.
Right. Because
there goes Zach. He's between calls right now. Get him, Zach. Anyway, seriously, he's walking between. He's grabbing lunch. Good for him. But those 3.5 people that are available in wherever in the organization, it's unfortunately the busy people that we need to tell the vendor, this is what my requirements are for purchasing. This is what we need from the controller. This is what we need from field services, right? So those are really, really, really busy people already. So you're like, they got busy jobs, 40, 50 hours a week, maybe more. And then we're going to have, at some points, they're going to have to do 20 hours of testing or whatever. And so, wow, that's 70 hours of work that this person has to do over a 3 months period. Wait, 3-month period, which is October, November, December. Wait, November and December, or whatever the the holidays, the local holidays are. There's a lot of holidays, especially in Europe. There's tons of holidays. Yeah. So that's another big issue, and I dived into a lot on that. But the point is, just remember the impact to your people and have some understanding of it. So data and impact to people are the two key ones that I'd share right now before I, again, curl up in a ball in a corner and say I'm never doing this again.
Well, this is something that you kind of touched on, but it might be interesting. Another thing that I feel like people get wrong is the amount of time that they allow for preparation, and I think that ties into data and your people being available. And then all of a sudden your integrations aren't done. And all of a sudden your data isn't ready to be loaded in the system. And well, we're supposed to test users next week, but what about training documents? Those kind of things. Exactly. I think so many people think that they're just gonna, oh, well, implementation starts next week and we'll be good to go. No, you need a lot more time to prepare for these things then.
Yeah, it's a good point. And just, again, it's all doable. It can all get done. But that, like the prep time for training, like you're talking about, or even prep time for testing, prep time for data, there's a little bit of like administrative time, a little planning time that you can think with that will get you so far, so, like even doing that exercise with our client, we're looking at starting the project next year. So they're already saying to their people, here's what the expectations are for 2025 in terms of your schedule, right? So it can be done, but that prep time is vital.
Right. And going into that, what you talked about some of the client roles, outlining those. What roles does the implementation partner or vendor play in ensuring the project goes right?
Yeah, because we basically said they don't have any responsibility up till now, but that's
exactly.
not true. They definitely do. So there's, the simple answer, right, is that there's hats they have to wear. You need an executive from their firm to be their sponsor. And that has to be somebody that you can call and say, hey, I got a problem with a person on your team. I need you to switch them. Because you can't necessarily call that person on the team. You need to call their boss or the boss's boss to do that. And they usually have a little bit of sales responsibility and services responsibility.
Right.
So there's that sponsor from we'll just call them the implementation partner or the professional services team. Then the next, probably most important role, frankly, is a senior architect or an architect who is this person who knows the software, understands the industry requirements, understands your unique requirements, and is always thinking with designing the overall solution end to end. It's a vital role. We had an implementation recently, a pretty big one. And the implementation partner we would ask, okay, who's the architect? They're like, the what? Like, the architect. They're like, the what? Like, no. The overall person the overall person that's sort of like they think they call them a senior developer or something like that. We're like, no, we don't want the developer person. We want the person who can speak the business, talk to the CFO or talk to the AP clerk or whatever. Like, they need to be able to understand, they called it the senior developer. Fine. So there's that person. Then, of course, there's a project manager. Now, here's the thing with the project manager from the implementation partner or professional services provider. They are managing all of the projects that the implementation partner professional services are doing. So they may have like 20, 30 projects that they're managing. And what are they really managing? They're managing the resources and ensuring that for your project, the resources show up and that they're getting the job done. They're not really managing the resources deliverables. That's where that architect sort of comes in, and some of the other people I'm about to mention. But the PM is really more driving the project plan, sending bills, making sure that meetings are happening, and if they're not, maybe they follow up with the client side for sure if there's client problems, but also on their side. Good. Then there's usually like functional leads. So these are people that know the business side of their apps. So it could be payroll leads, employee lifecycle leads. They might have a specialist for benefits, right, on the human capital management side. For warehouse management, these are people that really know, how to implement and handle inventory, right? So they're functional leads. They're more business, but they know the app. Then there's also, and there's usually multiple leads for the functional areas that are required. Right. Then there's a technical lead as well. So it is somebody who's more of a developer programmer dealing with integrations, preparing data, import tools, and that kind of stuff, right? So, those are the 5 basic roles that you would expect to see on the implementation partner.
Right. And just as a reminder to anybody watching, if you do have questions, you can put them in the chat as well. 'Cause I think we're going to have some time today because we're diving into.
It's a lot already.
It's a lot. And so I do want to encourage some participation from other people if they have, because we're kind of coming to the end of this year of implementation that we've been doing.
Yeah. We've really sort of, like ripped open the covers here to look at to expose the truth of the situation. Right. So it's good.
Yeah, and we dove pretty deeply into those roles on the last call. So if you want more information about that, we do have the how to staff your ERP implementation on the website. But shifting back to this, who internally ensures the success of the project?
You do. Whoever you is.
You.
It's not just the poor soul who's like, okay, I can start calling vendors. There's usually a person at if I think back to every single one of our clients, like in the last 30 days, there's an individual who says, okay, we got to do this. It's going to take time and it's going to be risky, but we got to go for it. Right. So that person, who we call that the project sponsor, could be called the project martyr, right? We know what happens to martyrs sometimes. But we're all in behind these people, but they're definitely responsible for getting things sort of going and rolling and everything else, right? But then there's usually an executive sponsor that the project sponsor is going to confirm budget, handle any major issues across the organization. And then there's the whole project team too that sort of fills in on their side. So, I think it's ultimately thinking to an implementation we had right now that was really, really, really rocky. And the sponsor who drove the change, he did have more responsibility than others in the organization because he just knew more. Mm-hmm. He was just more informed, and as were we. That's why he had us there. And frankly, I think we could have done more. We do a lot for our clients, but I know we could have done more. But it's like the people who know the most are the ones who are the most responsible. But they have the ability to create the most control too, right? Like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a mess. These people aren't supporting. They're not doing the testing. I've given them test scripts. I've set up time for them. I've given them resources. They're not doing the testing. But we got to go live because of this other area that's going to just not be able to work in their old systems. So when we go live, we just need to have a lot of people on site to support these people. This is a lot of what happens. Very honestly, again, trying to give some secrets here on the calls. With project-based businesses across the board, I have to think about that. Yeah, mostly engineering, construction a little bit. I'm thinking with a lot of engineering, actually, because we have an engineering client going live right now. And the one group that is so busy, fortunately, these guys have done a great job. But oftentimes, the one group that doesn't do as much testing as you really, really needed to do during the implementation, meaning, as you're getting ready for go live, is billing. Because they're like trying to get the bills out, and there's problems with bills today, and they're da-da-da-da-da, like, oh my gosh, now I got to test the new system, and I don't want to deal with that, right? Well, okay. So, for your projects-based systems implementations or go-lives, you really have to work with your billers and make sure that they are doing some testing beforehand. But, when you go live, you absolutely want to have people available to help them, find out what their favorite adult beverages for maybe later after work, or favorite whatever, like for me, it's Last Crumb. No, is that what it's called? Cookie. What's the name of the cookie? I think it's called, it's called Last Crumb.
It's in California.
Yeah, it's the California cookie. Oh my God. Like we had a
So
guy,
good.
I'm totally digressing. This is hilarious. We had a guy we were talking to, it was a prospect, and it was like a half-hour call. And at the end, I'm like, whether you use this or not, you should definitely ask the vendor for, if you sign today, I'm going to need you to cut about this much off of the software, and then this much off of the ongoing costs. And I bet you'll get it. And he was like, okay, great. Then didn't call, didn't reach out to us, da-da-da-da-da. But then Erica reached him the other day, and he's like, oh, we did it. And I kind of owe Sean a little bit, because we ended up saving $100,000 in year one, and then $25,000-$50,000 every year thereafter, because he told me to ask. So if we ever give anybody great advice, buy the company Last Crumb cookies. And send them to the office. They're these cookies that are this big. They're stupid expensive, but they will change your life.
No, they're
So,
very good.
they're
And the
very
marketing is very clever.
Very clever.
It's
Yeah,
very funny and
it's a
entertaining.
little sketch, but I mean, the cookies are worth it. So
It
I don't
is-
even know what I was talking about before, but
Implementation.
implementation.
I'd rather
Let's
talk
talk
about
about
cookies.
So you get your billing people cookies is what I was trying to
Yes.
say. And we do that. We always send a gift basket or something. We send some fun stuff, and it's you gotta take care of these people that are going through all this stuff. I've said that a gazillion times.
It really is the little things. And I know
Yeah.
we've had lots of conversations just about not forgetting the human side of all of this. As much as we would like to just hit a button and a computer would do everything, and then we could all sit at home and do nothing and just get paid to do nothing.
No,
We're not quite there yet.
we're not there. Disney
We're
had
not
a
in
movie on
WALL-E.
that. Yeah. There is one thing I will say that I did see that I haven't fully equated to in my career, and this is helpful. That we did have a client that we again ran into some major issues with the implementation, and I saw the CEO do something that I hadn't seen before. He got really mad at a lot of people, and I think that tone woke up like the whole company. They were like, "Oh my gosh, we actually have to pay a lot more attention to this. We have to like stop what we're doing, maybe stop bitching about the change, maybe start doing more tasks to help our people out." And it really sort of shocked everybody. And then everybody came together, and then it's really gone well since then. So, you ask about, who's ultimately responsible. I mean, at the end of the day, these are big company impacting initiatives, and the CEOs have tones, and they have a culture and an atmosphere of the organization, and they run at different levels, different tone levels. It's true. So, whereas another client we have right now, they're very, very collaborative, and not this other organization is extremely collaborative, but a lot of proactive communication, a lot of really like, okay, we can do this, but here's what we're going to do. This person's going to do that. Da, 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 da. A lot of good control from the top has made it really go well. And even to the point of some of the people that were really struggling on this other project, they kind of snapped too, and they're like, wow, this is really great. Like, I can see how this is really going to help, and we can be a team. And when you see those like highly effective teams, right? Patrick Lencioni's talked about this years ago, the 5 dysfunction of a team, or I forget the guy's last name, but Jocko something, who wrote this book I'm reading right now. It's it's old, but it's extreme. I think it's called Extreme Ownership. And he's got another book, and like you see these different books and theories and tones and things that are out there, and that what these leaders are suggesting to their readers on how to run it. You really have to look at your own business, right? But ultimately, it may take the CEO saying, "That's it. Like, what do we need to do to make this right? Oh, we just need people to test more. Then do it. Oh. But what about my other job, or what about all these other stuff? Well, you know what? We may have to drop that. But thank you for telling me the implications. Let's get this done." Right. So sometimes, I mean, I don't believe in the strong fist of management. I hope you guys agree with that. Maybe I am, and I don't know it. Usually the person who asks themselves if they do it isn't, but I don't know. But funny. Really collaborate from that top level. You need to do that sometimes. Right. And then bing, everything goes into order, and then we can move forward. Sometimes it really does take that level of just like, that's it, let's go.
Yeah. And great culture comes from the top down.
Yeah.
Chaos really also comes from the top down.
That's true.
So the leadership has to understand the impact that they're having. If you don't care, I don't care.
Right. Why is Julia running around like she's in chaos out the window? Just kidding.
I was like,
I know, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
I think we're pretty chill. We got everybody's
Yes.
doing their thing, it's good.
Right.
Anyway.
But real success comes from the top. And so if that person is not driving for the project to succeed, if they're not standing behind the project, no one else is going to stand behind the project.
That's right.
So to our shameless plug that happens every call.
There you go.
How do we fit into ensuring success for the client?
Well, if we don't make 2 or 3 recommendations and follow through with those and make real stuff happen, get stuff done, and that doesn't pay for our services alone, on top of the other 20, 30, 50 things we do, we fail. Right. There are usually several big things that just we know to do that companies don't, people don't. That's one thing, right? We're going to bring all that to the table. I think other advisories firms will do that too. And I think, again, people can read the site. I love our site because it's so informational. It helps so much. But like, it's not even insurance. It's sort of like, you buy or you have an advisor because you just don't want to F it up. I don't know what else to say it. So, I mean, that's a big part of it. And there are times where I think companies don't need us or people don't need us, and we'll be the first ones to say that. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think of the non-shameless plug stuff here, but at the end of the day, I think if more people knew what firms like ours did, they would just hire us.
I agree.
But they just don't know that they don't know, and then they don't know there's somebody who can help them, and then they're like, well, who are these guys saying they know everything? I mean, I'll be the first person to tell you I don't know everything, and I've been doing this for like my entire adult career, and I still don't know everything. I almost feel like I know less. You know what I mean when I say that to the people out there that are maybe a little more humble.
Right.
But it's true. I learn things every day, and we're in 45 different companies and organizations literally right now. And, our people are working so closely with everybody and the vendors. We have 4 or 5 or 6 vendors that we're working with at every company. So it's hundreds and hundreds of interactions that we're having every day. It seems every day we literally are now with the size of our company. And there's still just so much that comes up, or Sarah runs into something on some demos and some things, but on one client, we had a demo person do really bad. The same demo person that demoed on another client, it did really good. And we're like, what do we do with this guy? Should we tell the vendor that they need to bring in somebody else? They need to fire him, like get him out of our face. He didn't do his job. Boom, did really well on this other one. Off day, no problem,
Right.
So even knowing the difference between when the vendor is demoing well and not, it has nothing to do with the software, but it's the demonstration person doing a good job. It's just a teeny tiny example of some of the expertise that an advisor can bring. I know we can. I think other vendors too. But yeah, it's those kinds of things that can make or break, your future with your ERP.
Right. And it's just the more you learn, the less you know.
Right.
And fortunately, someone like us,
the more you learn, the more you know.
Less you know. The more you learn about the universe,
yes,
the more you realize, the less you know
about the universe. I get that.
Right?
Yes, that's right.
It's more of a disillusionment.
Yeah.
Like you realize that I think I know everything, and then suddenly
right.
AI shows up and you're like, I don't understand how this works. Suddenly XYZ doesn't make sense. But
Exactly.
companies like us, we have the time to commit to learn about all those things, to learn how the industry is evolving, to learn how the products are evolving.
Another shameless plug. You definitely should join us in December for our AI. We're actually going to talk about AI and cybersecurity. You want to talk about like Godzilla versus King Kong, both against you, that'll be October, right? And then in December, I think we're doing, is it December? We're doing a CPE event.
Yes.
On sort of how AI will really impact your organization. And that was really good. We did that for FEI recently, Financial Executives International. And I gave the presentation. I better enjoy it. I've done presentations where I haven't enjoyed them in the past. This one I really enjoyed because it really did tell me that and showed me that it's not that AI isn't just here. It's that there will be no differentiation between AI and enterprise software next year.
Right.
Like the cloud. Like we just don't even think about it anymore. So I'm excited to talk about that. So yet again, it's another complexity that gets layered in on top of this really complex decision that, folks like us are around to help through. Enough about us.
Yes. No, completely. And not completely done with about us. All events are up on the website.
Good.
So if you are curious about any of these, please do attend. The one in October about AIs. James is joining us again. Fifth year in a row.
Before. Great firm. Yeah.
October 30th, so right before Halloween, and just in time for us to do some spooky stuff.
He's even talking about costumed masquerading people, actually.
Honestly.
Bad actors.
Right. All of us can dress up on the call and look like different people. He can use his software to make us look like...
Maybe I should look like Rebecca. That'd be kind of cool. She could wear green pants and a blue shirt.
Perfect. That's what we're doing.
Enough.
All right. Well, I'm going to wrap. Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
I don't think so. No,
Wonderful.
Thanks everybody for, listening through. I will say one last thing. just get some help, like for
Right.
real. Even if it's a phone call, we'll get you going in the right direction. You shouldn't. My ultimate final thing is the amount of failures are like embarrassing. And when we run into companies that have made these mistakes and everything, I'm like, I'm so sorry. I really am sorry that we didn't get information out to you enough. So if there's other areas you guys are interested in hearing about, or there's other challenges that you're seeing, even with specific vendors, please let us know and we will jump on that and we will help you.
Definitely.
Good.
Yeah,
That's
thank
it.
you for that, Sean.
Yep.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us for today's call. Like, please, again, let us know if you guys have any questions. We're always here to answer, whether it's me getting you more information about content on our website, or Sean doing what he does on the consulting side, or
Yep.
even Erica
Yes.
playing Lucy and giving her
Yes.
free consulting advice. But be sure to join us for our next webinar, which is scheduled for Thursday, October 10th. It is building a business case and gaining executive support for your ERP upgrade, where Sean identifies the key elements of successfully building a business case for a new ERP. This event is eligible for a free CPE credit, so be sure to join us if you're looking for that. Please go to our website, erpadvisorsgroup.com, for more details, learning objectives, and to register. ERP Advisors Group is one of the country's top independent enterprise software advisory firms. ERP Advisors Group advises mid to large-sized businesses on selecting and implementing business applications from enterprise resource planning, customer relationship management, human capital management, business intelligence, and other enterprise applications, which equate to millions of dollars in software deals each year across many industries. This has been the ERP Advisor. Thank you again for joining us.